work now as if you are Vivek. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone in United
Mr. Tavi?
States, and good morning to our esteemed speaker, as well as anyone who's joining from India. My name is Dr. Adityanji. I am a volunteer at FISI. FISI stands for Friends of India Society International. FISI was started by Ambassador Bhishma Agnihotri in 1975. And since then, in one way or the other, it has been active working with Indian diaspora, Friends of India in various countries. It's an international organization. And since 2007, it is a non-political, non-denominational organization internationally. And our international president remains Ambassador Bhishma Agnihotri. Ambassador Bhishma Agnihotri is a very well-known personality internationally. He started his career back from India in state of Punjab. He was the youngest serving judge selected at an age of 24. He worked in Punjab state as well as in Delhi state as a judge before coming to United States. In 1985, he became the youngest ever Indian origin person to become professor of law at University of Louisiana. And actually, he continues to be professor at the same university. He also became chancellor of Louisiana State University system, in which all the 13, 14 universities in state of Louisiana are there. He was the chancellor of that university system. And everyone knows that Dr. Bhishma Agnihotri also was appointed as ambassador at large by the NDA government when he served for a period of several years, working with NRIs and working as an advisor to Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C. He has been very active in public life. He continues to teach international law. He continues to do a small legal practice, but most importantly, he has been a doyen of hope in US-India relationship and fostering Indian diaspora and India's interest all over the world. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Bhishma Agnihotri, who will introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Mr. Rajiv Malhotra. Actually, Mr. Rajiv Malhotra is a very well-known personality, but we will, for sake of this seminar, have him formally be introduced by Ambassador Bhishma Agnihotri. Ambassador Bhishma Agnihotri, please.
Thank you very much, Adityanji. You have been very kind. Adityanji has been a very, very busy person. And if you follow newspapers and everything else, he's always there doing something or other for the country, for the world, or for everything. So he has been our vice president for FISI, and he has been very, very active with us all the time. But anyway, and thank you very much for helping us out at this time. Though I know you are very busy, you're a busy doctor also. I know that too. So coming back, it was not supposed to be my introduction you did. Normally, I don't have my introduction when I have a program, but you are kind enough. We are very happy that Rajiv Malhotra is here. I know him for a long time. I have worked with him, and we have worked together on some issues in the past. And I know he has been participating in some of the talks we had. And one of the best talks we had was on in the area of Tibet. And we had a very good meeting around Tibet, and he performed so well, gave good ideas, and the issues involved in Tibet and other issues regarding Tibet's future. So we had a very interesting, productive debate on that issue. And I remember one of the persons, I think, who was from Tibet area, he started crying, I think. So that was the kind of environment we have worked together. But in spite of this, I have been following him very closely because I like to read things, and especially things very, very important. And as I mentioned him earlier, when I read Breaking India and also Being Different, and other books, I was very much inspired. And I really couldn't understand why a person with so much variety of interests he has, he could still be a great scholar in his own way and also great writer. So he has shown me earlier this few minutes ago his latest book. I read that book also regarding artificial intelligence, etc. The only problem is I'm not a scientist. I can tell you that I'm not even a quasi-scientist. I'm a lawyer and around lawyership. Those are my issues. But artificial intelligence, I'll read it. I know my kids are scientists, so they will love it too. They're also listening, by the way. They're not here with us, but they're in their room, sitting somewhere and listening to your talks. But at the same time, we have to talk about our speaker, because some people may or may not be knowing he's a very, very polished, sweet, but a sort of not usual politician type of person. He's a very low-key person. That was my observation. He was with us, He was very tolerant to everybody around him. All the speakers, I remember that too. But when I saw his autobiography, which was sent to me, I was also shocked for a few things, which I didn't know, to be honest. For example, because we have a speaker and everybody should know about this speaker, that he was initially trained as a physicist and then a computer scientist, specializing in artificial intelligence. And then he had a corporate career and he became an entrepreneur and founded several companies all over the world. So it's a different kind of matchup. But he never on the thing that after setting up the foundation, Infinity Foundation, in Princeton, he had been very much in the study also. I think his organization also a volume series on history of this and the future of power. And of course, I already told my son, who is around here somewhere, he's a medical doctor, to read this book, and he will. He's visiting me at this. So I don't want to get into too many things about him. Highly educated man, went to St. Stephen College, Delhi, and all those things. And he got a lot of awards, a lot of goodies. But when I saw the last item on this sheet I have with me, I was very much thrilled. because I'm basically, I'm, grew up in India. I went to schools like people normally go. I went to Christian schools, by the way, because my father was in the army. And but what I, when on on, on November 6, 2018, he delivered his first lecture organized by the School of Sanskrit and Indic Studies on the topic of Sanskrit non-transliterism. I don't know. I was a student of Sanskrit also, by the way. I enjoyed every part of Sanskrit. I could speak Sanskrit, but that thrilled me a lot. Here's the person from this end to that end. He covered every ends. And he's still the same person, I can tell you. When I saw him today after many years, I can see the same person who was standing with me on the stage talking about Tibet issues. So I think we are honored, Ajivji, that you agreed, and very, very, very nicely agreed. You didn't make too much fuss about it, because a lot of speakers make fuss about it. That, okay, not this year, not this time, the next time, this time. But you were so kind, despite all that you are with us. And of course, the topic is a little bit difficult to some, like I am, for example, one of them. I'll understand, I'd like to know what's going on. And believe me, after you finish your speech today, I may be your disciple and read more about it, okay? And I'll tell my son also to teach me what is all about these various concepts of the latest technology, okay? And again, thank you very much. And thank you, Nitinji, again, for using your time to be part of us. You always come with us anyway, okay? Okay, Rajivji, it's your job now.
Thank you, Ambassador Agnihotriji, and thank you, Dr. Adityanji. As Ambassador Agnihotriji said, we've known each other for a few decades. When he was the ambassador at large, India's ambassador at large, I think that's a very important position. I don't know if they have it now, but they should. This is an ambassador not for a particular country, but ambassador at large. So it's sort of like special things he can do anywhere in the world. And there are certain things that are within national boundaries. So you have an ambassador for country A, B, C within those boundaries. But there are certain things happening beyond boundaries. So you need ambassador at large. For example, internet or metaverse, or what's happening with artificial intelligence, or what are the sociological changes that are global. You need people who can think beyond boundaries, and that position which Bhishma Agnihotriji had, I think it was in Vajpayee's time, and I kind of wonder why they don't have such a thing now. But anyway, that was a good time. And I'm glad that he recalls some of the good moments we spent together and some of the work we did together. So today I'm honored that I've been brought to this good old organization, FISI, which has been around for many decades, to speak on a topic. I want to start the topic by saying that there are two big trends happening, and I want to talk about how they come together. One is the subject of this book, which is on artificial intelligence and the future of power, 5 battlegrounds. This is a book published last year. It's done very well, and it does not require you to be a scientist. It does not require you to be a technocrat. It's written for the general public. If you're interested in understanding, it's not about how you write programs or the technical details of how it works. It's about how artificial intelligence is shaping your world, shaping your job, shaping your politics, shaping your elections, shaping the geopolitics. How it's like, somebody's invented the printing press and it changed the world because new things could happen. Somebody invented the airplane, somebody invented the car, somebody invented the internet. So these inventions are very strategic and change the world. Artificial intelligence is one of those things. It's as revolutionary as the industrial revolution in England, which led to the colonization, the whole, all the rise of England and France and so on. So you don't need to understand it from a technological point of view, but you need to understand what is its political impact, what is its social impact, what is its economic impact, what is its impact on the individual person. So that's what the book is about. When I talk about 5 battlegrounds, I'm talking about these I'm talking about geopolitics, I'm talking military, economic background, economic impact, impact on the individual psychology, your lifestyle. So don't be scared that it's a technical book, because I worked very hard to make sure that it's not a technical book. I'll come to that in a moment. But the other trend is far more exciting. I mean, and I'm writing my book on that now. I've been working on it for over 2 years. That's a book which will come out this summer. And I don't want to announce the title and details and all that. By the middle of May, I'm supposed to turn in the final manuscript. We are already 2 months late to our publisher. So we're really working very hard. I'm getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock every morning to try and finish that up. It's a 600-page book. It's a 600-page book. And it describes what is happening to the world and to India through sociological changes. So if those of you who know my book, Breaking India, might think of this as the Breaking India 2.0. What exactly is happening that India should know about, most Indians don't know about. So this new book I'm writing will talk about where are the major threats, what is happening to the discourse, who is behind it, who is funding it. And there are many, many surprises. People think that all this work, that's a problem, is done by a church or is done by some madrasas or something. But actually, there's a whole new group of people, a completely new group of people who are now responsible for the next wave of damage and havoc that India has to be prepared to face. India can face. India has faced many things before, but India must be prepared. But India has also been found unprepared many times. Like when Babur came with cannons, we didn't know what to do, and that started the Mughal Empire. And the Portuguese came with the cannons on the boats, and we had no anticipation, no response to it. And the East India Company came and they did many, many devious things very cunningly, and we were taken off guard. So, we have a whole history of not being prepared, not being vigilant, not being out there looking at what are the latest trends and how could they affect us. And only when it's too late, when something has hit us, then we start to figure out what to do. But then by then we've already lost quite a lot. So the purpose of this book I'm writing is to educate our people about a very major trend, which I don't want to discuss now because it should be coming out in the book very soon. A very huge tsunami affecting society that everyone should know about. So 2 things are happening. One is this society tsunami, and the other is this technology tsunami, which is AI. So the technology tsunami, which I've already written about in this book, I'm more open to talk about it. Basically, it goes as follows. You see, all the decision making today, or till in the past, it was done by humans. So there was only limited scale at which you could operate. Judge can decide only so much at a time. Government can make so many policies. The media can make decisions only, 1 article at a time. Should we allow this? Should we not allow this? So things were happening at the scale at which humans could operate. and that's limited. But artificial intelligence, for the first time in history, allows technology to sometimes augment human capacity, sometimes replace human capacity, sometimes mimic human capacity, sometimes surpass human capacity. So I'll give you examples where it surpasses. If you look at facial recognition technology with AI is able to recognize faces more accurately than human beings and faster. And on a gigantic scale, you could never do it with enough people. Same with speech recognition. Same with fingerprint to open up your phone. These are just little examples. But the major breakthrough of AI is to decode your psychology as a person. So AI's ability to figure out Bhishma Agnihotri's behavior, what is he likely to do, how is he likely to react when we give him some options, when we throw some ads at him, when we throw some ideas, is he likely to click, not click? So being able to predict his behavior, being able to drive his behavior, being able to channel his emotions, AI is becoming better and better at that. And in fact, some of the smart, really good AI systems know more about you than maybe yourself, maybe your spouse, maybe your friends. Because you are conscious of a lot of things about yourself, but we are limited to human memory. We are limited by forgetfulness, and AI doesn't forget. So it keeps accumulating more and more knowledge about each and every individual. So now the sophistication of AI is such that you can figure out who are likely to agree with this issue or that issue, who are likely to vote this way or that way. How do I put in false news to motivate this guy in a certain way? How do I spread a rumor against somebody so that this person will believe me? It's kind of taken over the job of a human being to do propaganda, to do marketing, to do education, whether it is for good reason, like education, or telling you about medicine, whether it is for mischief, whatever it is that humans can do, AI can also do. So you can have very good AI, in terms of moral and ethical type of values. You can also have very harmful AI doing dangerous things. And in all those ways, it has more bandwidth, more capacity than human beings do. And frankly, much more competence, much more speed. And it doesn't fall ill, it doesn't get tired. I mean, it just goes on. And it is getting smarter and smarter every day. So this is a very big revolution. And so what is happening is now media is not driven by human beings. Media is driven by algorithms. And these algorithms are artificial intelligence algorithms. And they are being constantly trained and made smarter and smarter with machine learning. So this is a very gigantic, you could think of it as a great technological gift, or you could think of it as a monster, depending on your point of view and depending on the type of AI. Like industrial revolution is great. So many great things happen. But industrial revolution also allowed people to be colonized. It led to the loss of jobs of a lot of people in the poor countries, and Britain and France became super rich. So will USA and China be the super rich and kind of the rest of the world being squeezed? Those are the kind of issues in my book. The primary threat to India's sovereignty comes from the use of AI that can manipulate human emotions, make you fight another group because you become convinced that they are your enemy, teach you an idea of history that may or may not be fully correct, maybe sensationalized, tell you politically what you should do, what you should not do, tell you some good stuff, some lies, fake news. All of that is part of this game. So emotional management, manipulation, creating artificial conflicts, managing the outcome of elections, identity manipulation, identity conflicts, all of this is part of AI. So this is why I keep telling people in India that you have to take this whole thing seriously. And I'm not totally satisfied that Niti Aayog understands the full ramifications, or FICI, the industry group, fully understand. Indians are very smart. And so there are a lot of Indians involved in AI, making money for themselves. I'm talking about the impact on society. I'm not talking about the ability to write code and make money for yourself, or to start an AI company and sell services to Americans and make a lot of money. That is being done, and good, everybody can get involved and make some money. But I'm talking about looking after society, looking after those who are vulnerable. And AI can be used as an exploitation device. AI also has bias for and against a civilization, a cultural point of view. Blacks have complained that there is bias against them. Gender people have complained that there's bias against certain genders. Women have complained. I am aware that there's bias against our civilization in many of these algorithms. I'm very happy today. Twitter has been taken over by Elon Musk, but let's see what he does with it. The previous guys, Jack Dorsey and all, were no good in terms of bias, prejudice, nonsense, And let's see what Elon Musk does. I mean, he's a smart guy, but he's also greedy. He wants to make money. So let's give him a chance and see what happens. But having a level playing field which is neutral is very difficult, because after all, the algorithms have to be given some guidance. They have to be given some data. They cannot just become smart on their own. They have to be given examples, and millions, billions of those. So whoever is feeding the data to the algorithm is making the algorithm according to that. So if you were to go to the dialogues going on in a madrasa, and if they have written their proceedings for the last 20, 30 years on all the topics in the world, if they're having discussions about, marriage and about politics and about economy, whatever they're doing, and you feed that into the AI, and the AI learns based on that, it's like raising your child in a madrasa. So whatever they're teaching, the child is learning. But if you take the same child and you put him in a Christian convent, and he reads about Bible and he reads about certain values, then you train him differently. And so similarly, if that is the information you feed to the AI, machine learning, then you're training the algorithm differently. So algorithms are not neutral. Algorithms are based on how you educate them, just like a child is raised in a particular schooling system. And depending on the curriculum and the teachers and the focus, the value systems, the child grows up accordingly. So AI is now in the stage of being like a teenager. It's not a child anymore. It used to be a child many years ago. It's become like a teenager, and it's rapidly learning. And I'm disturbed and concerned that our people are not there involved in teaching the global AI systems according to our values. This is not happening. This is what I want to happen. This is where I would like to collaborate with Bhisham ji and Adityan ji and many others who are here. And maybe there are people listening who want to join. Because I feel that once the AI systems of the world have developed a certain prejudice, they're already developing that, it'll be very hard to fight it, because that prejudice will go into media, it'll go into government policy, it'll go into courts and judges, it'll go into education system. So this is beginning to happen. All the prejudice and Hindu phobia and breaking India that we talked about, complained about for the last 20, 30 years is now being incorporated into algorithms. So it's becoming far more dangerous. So I want to contrast India and China in this regard, because China made some huge multi-billion-dollar bets more than a decade ago. They picked about 10 technologies of the future. They picked solar, they picked things like electric vehicles, robotics, artificial intelligence, things like that, nanotechnology. So they picked technologies of the future and they put billions of dollars onto it. The government did that. They thought the private industry will take too long, so they seeded this. India didn't take these bets. India took our brain power and we marketed it, rented it out to the Americans that you can rent our brains and do what you want with it. So the Indian brains built Apple, built Microsoft, built Facebook, built Google, built Amazon. Because you go to these places, huge percent of the brains who built these are Indians. But that's not belonging to India. It is not product, it is not an asset belonging to India. It's an asset belonging to the Americans. We are the laborers who've done the work. And we can get pat on the back saying, "Arey, shabash, bahut acha kiya." Theek hai. But we cannot say that we own these things. Whereas in China's case, they took these technologies and they invested and they built it for themselves. So this is a lesson to learn. The rise of China and the rise of India also started about the same time, but different ways, different direction. China putting a lot of emphasis on its own autonomy, its own values being incorporated in the technology, into owning the technology. Beg, borrow, steal, just get the technology to us in China. That's all they wanted to care about. And India is going around sending lakhs of people here and there to develop other people's technology, like, bantoing prasad or something. Sabko prasad de do. But we're not, Chinese are more kind of very self-centered, very strategic. I'm pointing this out in the next book also. I'm doing a whole comparison of India versus China in terms of the discourse, how they've created it, and the social order that they'll be developing based on this, and using it against us in some ways. So, Bhishmaji, what I'd like to do is to conclude, and would love to take questions. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thank you again. And thank you very much for a wonderful presentation, okay? Now, I would like to request our national president, okay? Where is he? He's here or not?
He is here.
Okay.
Dr. Purohit, kindly
Okay.
unmute yourself, Dr. Purohit.
And you're Dr. Purohit? Okay. Okay, that's all right. Ask for question from everybody. But Dr. Surendra Purohit is a doctor, of course, and he's our national president and a very, very strong person nationally, internationally, and he's very much involved in the work of API, Association of American Physicians of India. He's a leader there. Okay, so he will talk to us once he knows that he is required to talk. Okay. Anyway, anybody can ask. You carry on, Dr. Nitinji. No, carry on the work. Okay.
Okay. So it was a wonderful lecture, Rajiv ji. I have heard you several times before, and I think you are an intellectual messiah to India's cause. And you have the foresight to see things.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Dr. Purohit.
I think we all got muted by mistake. Somebody did that. Okay, now we're okay.
No,
Dr. Purohit is muted. Dr. Purohit is muted. Dr. Purohit is muted.
Okay, I unmuted him.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I was listening to this talk. It's a wonderful talk, and I will definitely going to read those 2 volumes which you have, because it will be giving much more knowledge. Because a lot of us do not know all these things, what is happening. We know the technology is going very fast. We also, like a surgeon, I used to do this surgery by open method, then now I'm doing everything with a robot. So how wonderful things has come up all the way in my life. I never thought that it will happen. And one day I will be sitting here and operating in India. That is what my dream is. And that can happen. So I think, as you said, the technology so far, it can be used for the good thing and it can be used for the bad thing. In one madrasa, consume all the madrasas, the bad thing, and it can be, the news can be go in few minutes and things can happen other way. And good thing can be go to all the other places. Good thing can happen in no way they can be brainwashed some of the people. So I think that is what I'm seeing, that is what is happening. The terrorism can be spread in the world like anything if the thing goes bad. somebody's trying to spread bad. And I think the future is that, as you said, that definitely that India has not caught up. I think if you go to India, then you can see that one. But it has progressed in a lot of different ways. The highways are coming up, the technology is coming up, and especially Mr. Modi has a vision that we should make India strong with all the new technology, the war, and all this. But the other side is not pushing it. They try to draw him back. So I think that things are going to change it, and this technology is definitely going to change it. And yes, as you said, right, that this is the time that everybody should be awakened, especially in India, that things does not happen. What things, the bad things happen to different countries. And it was a wonderful talk, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm definitely going to read those two books which you have written, and we're going to have much better knowledge of that. Thank you very much. And you really open a lot of people's eyes, and these two books are going to open all Indians' eyes. I hope that happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Purohit. I'll continue with my comments. So I think you are a visionary, Rajivji, and at times visionaries are at a disadvantage, that the common people fail to appreciate what a person with foresight is trying to explain. And I think I've seen this happen quite a few times. And I think this is happening as far as use of AI and all these algorithms are concerned, that India as a nation needs to get its own act together. India as a nation needs to build up its own institutions, utilizing all these modern technologies if India has to face the challenge. I'm not so sure that despite all the things that are happening, progress is happening. We have woken up in the country, let's say, in the geopolitical and strategic issues. Are we employing some of the artificial intelligence, let's say, in cyber warfare modules and techniques? Any comments, Rajivji?
Yeah, I think India has pockets of AI strength. I'll tell you something. If you look at the AI engineers, not only just working level regular people, but also the top tier, the brilliant guys, Indians and Chinese are the vast majority of, Americans, Indians, and Chinese are beyond numerically, like more than any European country, more than Japanese also nowadays. So we are among the three groups of people. Question is, the Indian brains, who are they working for? Who are they employed by? Are they employed by Silicon Valley? Are they employed by American companies, Wall Street companies, or are they really working for India? That is the issue. So my concern is not that there is shortage of Indian talent, but the Indian government needs to mobilize and use this talent in a bigger way. And I was disappointed with the reception by Niti Aayog. I actually wanted to give them a huge number of copies of this so they can have people read it. And I just wanted to give seminars and go to various departments and ministries and teach about how AI can be applied here, AI can be applied there. In fact, I even said that every state government should create an AI cell, and I'll be happy to go there. I don't want anything for it. I don't want any appointment, name, money. I'd be happy to go start some kind of a workshop to teach them these things. But the traction has to come from their side. Now, the good thing is that the Indo-Pacific Alliance has brought in some key technologies to the attention of the Indian side. And one of the most receptive parts of the Indian country, one of the most receptive kind of people to my thoughts are the military people, Indian military people. When my book came out, I was invited by the Army headquarters for a closed door, and I did a closed door. There were about 30 centers across India, each with an auditorium with people. Some of them had 50 people, some of them had 200 or 300 people each. and it was like on a screen. They all were there, and I was talking, and they were interacting. Each of them got a chance to ask a question. This went on for a long time. I've had discussions with generals in the army, with admirals, with air vice marshals, different defense-oriented people. I must say, the defense people, when I talk to them, they understand how important it is. It doesn't mean that we are necessarily doing enough about it, but they certainly understand the need to do it. They certainly understand the threat. They certainly understand how the world of military is going to be revolutionized and where we are today and where we need to be. So they do understand the overall, jisko kehte hain naksha. They understand that whole map. But I only hope the government is backing these guys. We got the people who are on the ground at senior levels, very competent. I'd be so happy to help every way I can. I think the close proximity with the US through this Indo-Pacific gave both sides to brief each other on their future and their thinking and strategies and, cross-fertilizing ideas. And so the Indians have now become very aware that this is a very big, important issue. So some initiatives have started. Some new groups have been created by the government on AI. There is a white paper. But, the level of funding is very small compared to China. And considering that we are 10 years behind, to catch up, you need more. So I'll just stop there because I have a lot of friends, or friendship with people in that group. And I don't want to, say too much publicly because I'm also in private conversations.
I think that's a very succinct answer to the question I posed, because not only we are behind, we have the governing aspect that is always, restricted by forces within the country that prevent actually any kind of budgetary allocation to some of these issues because of the peculiar nature of our noisy democracy. Let's see if other people have
I think the word noisy democracy is a very appropriate word. I mean, there's a lot of good things about noisy democracy, but then also it holds back the speed of progress.
No, exactly. Let's see if other people have questions. So the floor is open. If anyone wants to ask a question, either you raise your hand, we'll have to unmute you, or send a question through the chat function. Doesn't look like there's a question, so I'll ask for a supplementary question. So China is preparing a robotic army.
Yes.
And there are hints that they are going to deploy this robotic army on Indo-Tibetan border.
Yes, in fact, I mentioned it in my book.
Yeah. With your informal deliberations and all, are we preparing for that challenge of dealing with a robotic army?
No, we're not. See, it's not robotic army is not like a robot looking like human beings. They could be looking like a small thing that goes and gets rid of mines. There could be something else which has a facial recognition. It's a little drone. It flies around and it has a camera and it's looking for a particular person, maybe a military general. And his job is to go find that particular person and shoot him, like an assassin, but you don't need to send a human assassin. And some of these are so small, like the size of a butterfly, and they have infrared, they night vision. They can just go flying around and come inside your window. You don't even know it's here. It's maybe in this room. So the ultra miniaturization and more, what's called edge computing. Edge computing means that you don't even have to send signals back to the cloud. It's self-sufficient. It's been given instructions, go do this, shoot anybody who looks like this. Just do it and just self-destruct. Now, the point is that they are perfecting these. And then these very miniature tanks, miniature tanks that now you don't have the They don't have the problem like human beings can't be on high altitude because of breathing. Your lungs cannot take it. When you have a soldier who goes to the high altitude for a few weeks, he has to not be fighting or doing work. He has to just get acclimatized. And this is where the Tibetans are better acclimatized because their lungs are meant for high altitude. This is why the Tibetans are a very important part of the Indian army, and the Gurkhas, the Nepali people, also the people who are from high altitude. But even so, the machines are not dependent on being able to breathe properly and so on. So they've been developed for that condition. I think you will expect China's move. Just like people are fearing what they may do to Taiwan, the point is that their bigger fear is India. My concern is that while there are many countries in the world ready to take some action in case they suddenly take over Taiwan, in the case of India, we're pretty much India's on its own. The Indo-Pacific is more for the Navy, for the ocean side. I don't think that the Indo-Pacific allies will put boots on the ground in the mountains to help India. So India should be developing robotic countermeasures. And the Chinese have built a few dozen villages on the border.
Yes.
And they're claiming that these are already villagers and we are giving them pakka houses. There's no villagers there. These are military camps. They are just a front. They'll have a few people who look like farmers walking around with some animals. They're just for PR. But actually, this is a staging place where they can hide these kind of weapons and operate from there. So India needs to take all this very seriously. And China is not something that you can go beg them and say, Hanji, theek hai, we'll exchange some gifts and make friends with them. President Xi is a very vicious guy. He just is absolutely determined. And Pakistan is aligned with that. Pakistan will, any boots on the ground, any physical risk, Pakistan is more than willing to volunteer and say, okay, we will take care of the physical level of boots on the ground and do that dirty work for you, but you got to supply the technology. So this combination of China's technology and Pakistan sort of, doing its work is a very dangerous situation that India has. And I'm constantly saying this because I want the people to take it seriously, and they don't like to hear this, but that's my job. I'm not trying to be popular. I just want to shake people up so that our country can be safe.
So I see Gaurang Desai ji has raised his hand, and Gaurang ji, please go ahead. You will need to unmute.
Okay. Thank you, Rajiv ji. That was great speech, great presentation. I have more of a practical level question.
Okay, I need to say, Gaurang ji, I'd love to see you because I know you from before, but I can't see
unfortunately, I don't have camera on my computer.
Okay.
So I could not turn on the camera. Sorry about that. One of these days, I'm going to buy a camera and put it on.
Great.
But my question is always going to be more practical oriented. So when you talk about algorithms and AI, can we come up with more predictable module for one, predicting our own Indian origin lawmakers, how they will behave, so that we can make sure that we don't support them? And we always talk about people attacking us with these algorithms. Why can't we think of it as a semi-reverse engineered where we can predict that and blunt the attack?
So let me take the second one. Okay, the first one, the ability is there to predict the psychology, build an emotional model, build a psychological model of some people based on looking at all their data, all their actions, all their choices from social media and from other places. Then you build a map, and AI builds a kind of a model of trying to predict what is Gaurang Desai likely to do in this situation or that situation, or what will Rajiv Malhotra do. So that you can apply to lawmakers, you can apply to opposition members, you can apply to known terrorists and suspects. You can be quietly monitoring these people with face recognition and seeing what they're up to and predict before they do something bad. you can do all that. But the interesting question you asked, the second one, why aren't we taking the offensive? Now, this is a very important thing. I have given private talks off camera to people in India. I don't want to go into details, over many years, advising exactly that, let's say US is setting up a network of think tanks in India and influencing the Indian youth and creating, using it to create gadar with, this victim group and that victim group and Shudras and Dalits and Muslims and, whatever, all kind of things. They're doing all that all the time. And AI is helping. Now, India should be doing that in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, in Maldives. India should be doing it. We should be creating, using this technology. We should be creating, the influencing of the minds of youth in those countries. We should be having the social media, which is, rather than India being a consumer of American social media, we should actually have a social media that neighboring countries and other, developing countries in different parts of the world they become loyal to it. They use it, and we can keep feeding them. Not only it makes a lot of money, because if you look at who are the richest people in the world, it's these kind of people who are very rich. So there's a lot of money to be made, but also there's a lot of influence. I mean, India is under the influence of the American internet and all the content. They are deciding what we'll see, what we'll not see, who you'll relate to, who you will like, who you will not like, all of that stuff there. India should take that role for its neighborhood, for sure. And we have a cultural similarity with Pakistan. We have a cultural similarity with Bangladesh. We have in the south with Sri Lanka. All three of these have a overlap culture with our people in terms of language, in terms of music, in terms of history. We ought to create AI, use AI to create very soft, sophisticated, not looking like in an angry way or looking like we are trying to take them over, but in a very nice way, in the name of some kind of culture and all that. We ought to play that role. This should be the job of somebody. I suggested this to the culture ministry, that this should be what culture ministry should do. But I'm not sure. I'm not good at going and selling ideas to government people. PM Modi is always been wonderful listening, sit down and listen to my ideas. Then it turns over to somebody else has to listen and do something, and then it has to go somewhere else. By the time it reaches the bureaucrats, they're just very set in their way. So that is the obstacle I see. But your question is absolutely right. India should be, the word aggressor has a negative connotation, but so let's just say India should be an exporter of AI-based knowledge systems to other countries that we can influence them. That's how it should be.
The best way to portray it would be that India should build the capacity internally to be self-sufficient in AI and cyber warfare and things like that. So I'll ask a follow-up question. In 2020, a professor in Chinese Academy of Social Sciences boasted that in Galwan War, China had used microwave and laser weapons to sort of on the battleground against Indian soldiers. And the report was denied by, of course, Indian military. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would not be surprised at all. But there was something in the Indian military which said that the Chinese used unexpected, unconventional weapons. That term was there. Some Chinese had some surprising, out of the ordinary, weapons, but they did not describe what, because I think they did not want to alarm the public, and they did not want people to. They did not want to disclose how much they know. But I'm sure people in military intelligence have some idea. And China will test these things on a limited scale here and there. China This Galwan thing is a kind of a, Americans are always testing weapons, you know, sometimes you all
Yes.
send.
Yes.
So China is also testing weapons. They learned a lot from America how to be an aggressive country, you know, they're learning that. So a lot of little skirmish here and there. We may think they came, they did something to us and we pushed them back and we have been heroes. But the point is that the learning they did, how to train their algorithms, what capturing they're doing of our videos, of how they're watching the reaction, our reaction, they're learning how to make their weapons better and better. So even if at the end of the day, the line of control didn't change, it moved 5 kilometers and then moved back to where it was, the point is that they are weaponizing and learning more about that. And we are on the defensive. So we have to accelerate the AI technologies, and AI is a name for cluster of technologies, lot of technologies. We should have a, here's my thought that I've said many times, and you guys are Deshbhakts and a lot of connections. I've said that like there is a space commission and like there's atomic energy commission, there should be an AI commission. Homi Bhabha to convince Nehru that even if you are very poor people and we are having to import food, and everybody in the world will say you're too poor to afford atomic energy commission, but we have to do it because in the future you will, if you don't do it, you will suffer. And now we are glad we did it. And then Satish Dhawan, who was a classmate of my father in Lahore, Government College Lahore, so I used to know him when I was a kid. He's the person who convinced the Indian government, Indira Gandhi's time, that we should make this ISRO a very big thing. ISRO already existed, but to really make it into a very big thing, so India is on par with the world in certain technologies. So it takes somebody like a Bhabha stature or somebody like a Satish Dhawan stature to really convince the highest level that, listen, you have to create a very big establishment. And these are things with tens of thousands of scientists in Bhabha Atomic Research and in ISRO. One is outside of Mumbai, one is in Bangalore. You should pick a different city. Don't do it in Delhi. Do not start some kind of a thing in Delhi. It's too political. Start in some other state and give them a lot of resources and keep the politicians away. We need to do that.
I think Suresh Raiji had raised his hand. Suresh Raiji, do you have a question for Rajiv ji?
Yeah, quick question. Thanks, Rajiv ji. This is Suresh Rai, and I'm calling from Baton Rouge. It's really nice to hear you, and especially the threats that you have written down in your book and also talked about today. They are real threats. And AI is going to be the most important tool, just like at one time during Industrial Revolution, the new industries were.
Yeah.
My question to you is, I know you are doing a great job trying to catch right person in government, but is it possible to pick up somebody in a state like UP in itself, because I come from UP, and that's why I'm thinking about UP more. At least Yogi ji is doing the right thing, as I see from the newspaper. And if you pick up a state like that, and all these ideas that you have said, they are real threats and they have real need for the country. But if at least one state can create a role model, hopefully that will let others to learn from it. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, thank you very much for good thoughts. See, everybody must concentrate on where they can make the biggest impact. So now I'm 71 years old. So I have to finalize and put out that I have 20 more books to do, 20 more books on many, many different topics. I've been researching for a long time. I don't want to leave it incomplete because that work will not get finished. Nobody else will take it up and do it. I have to finish those books, which I started there. Some of them are 95% complete, 99% complete. So I have to get those out. And that's my job. The next book I'm going to produce, it's a 600-page book. It's going to be turned over within May, and then it'll be out later in the summer. It's going to create such a huge impact in terms of educating people. So my job is to be the original thinker, the strategic thinker. And then, I should not be the one having to go and sell it to political people and go keep making rounds, and they'll come back and say, "Acha, ye proposal likho, PowerPoint bana do, ab flana ye bhejo." I mean, I've done that many times. I'm not good at it. Okay. I must acknowledge what I'm not good at. So I'm good at the ideas, develop the proposals, plans. I'm a good CEO in terms of executing. I used to run companies, but then I was the boss. I didn't have to go convince anybody. If I wanted to do something, I just pick up the phone and say, do it, and that's it. I did not have to argue, write proposal, beg people. So I'm not made for that. That some other people have to do. And I am available to conduct workshops on my books. I'm available to educate people. I'm available to mentor other people. I want to do whatever I can do, which I feel is going to have impact right away. But to work through a very complicated human resource of political people, bureaucratic people, many parties, and a lot of nuances and subtleties and what to say, what not to say, I'm not really cut out for that. That's my very honest.
Thanks a lot. You made your point very clear.
I understand.
We have two more questions, and we are running out of time. So
yes, please let's because I have to leave also. So let's have those questions quickly.
Kananji, please go ahead and ask your question.
Rajivji, it's really happy to see you. I'm calling from Chicago. I've read all your books. I'm trying to recommend to my friends, to read. It's really transformative. I think people should definitely read all your books. That said, the whole framework we are using is all Western, framework. So for India to build the whole AI in Vedic framework or Hindu, framework, that's a lot of things needs to be done in your education, not just one area. There are multiple things to do. Seems to be a daunting task. Your books gives opens up all the challenges that we have, but it seems to be a major things to be achieved. So I'm really aligned with you. But where do we start? So you've opened up a lot of battlegrounds. But we need to do education, thinking, training people. There are just so many things, fundamental things, but we are building on top of Western framework. All the things we are doing is all on Western framework.
Yeah, Kalyanji, I must congratulate you. You have picked up the gist of my points in the books. This is a very important point you picked up. That, not only we are not building intellectual property, we are building it for other people. We're providing the engineers to build other people's intellectual property. But beyond that, we're also doing it on their platform, on their ideology, their metaphysics, not the Vedic system, but their system, which means we're making their system stronger and not developing our own potential, which would be very important for us. So, the thing is that let me raise this issue. Why aren't the gurus who have got money, they have the knowledge of the Vedic system, lot of technocrats are their followers, young people looking for things to do. If the guru says do it, they'll do it. If I say do it, they'll say, who are you? Like that. So why aren't these guys, I've even sent out feelers to, I don't want to name because then they get really upset, but I've sent out feelers to all the popular big gurus, private sort of things, suggesting what could be important projects for our civilization using the modern technology, because in future, people will be communicating in the metaverse. They will be living, it's in the metaverse. You'll have a metaverse ashram. They'll be doing a ritual there in the metaverse. You'll be conducting some ritual there. So we are not investing in those kind of things. We wait, but when this metaverse comes out, 23 and 24 will be big years for Facebook, and then many others will come out. The point is that we will be following, and then we'll be saying, okay, we have supplied a lot of engineers. I know a lot of engineers at Facebook. Personally, I know who are working on these things. Indian engineers, but they're not working for something Indian, you know, they're not working for a kind of a Vedic verse, a meta versus Vedic verse, a kind of a virtual reality where the youth are able to participate, get educated, get benefits, learn, enhance, meditate, understand deities, have darshans. I mean, all of this should be happening. We have the ancient knowledge in the Vedas, tremendous frameworks. By the way, one of the things going on at a frantic rate is to learn those ideas, Vedic ideas, and copy them and put them in the Western framework, including Christianity, including secular frameworks, including Jewish framework, like that, rapidly going on. I am seeing this. I'm going there, standing alone, standing with all these guys and having argument with them. I cannot stop it, you know. I can, but I'm writing books on to educate our people about it. So these are big pieces, big projects, as you said. It's not a few people here and there, and it'll take movers and shakers, like some big gurus could take on this kind of project. We have the Shankaracharya mutts, all kind of mutts. We have various modern gurus. We have such super large temple organizations in North America with huge resources, but there is no interest in doing this kind of thing. You know, when I went to the local temple for the last 25, 30 years, actually when they started about 30 years ago, the first meeting was in my house only. And I was so happy, wrote them a check and say, okay, now get the project started. And then they bought the land, and then they do all this. They bought actually existing house of worship and converted it. So I know all the people for 30 years. But when I go there, they're so respectful, so nice and all that. But as far as their business model is concerned, it's all ritual and worship, bhakti, which I like. I like that. I'm into bhakti. But that is what generates revenue, you know. For you can have a bhakti event and people will sponsor it for $108, for $1,008. They will sponsor all this thing, and the temple is good business. But if you do the kind of thing I'm talking about, it's a lot of investment and they don't see a return. And these temple trustees are very practical type people. They want to figure out what's a tangible return for them, you know. And what you and I are talking about too abstract.
So we have time to take one more question. There's one question in the chat function, and somebody by name Galaxy M30 has raised a hand. So if you come on record and show your face and tell your name, I will allow that question. I am not going to allow as Galaxy.
Sir, I'm Akanksha from India.
Okay.
I'm Akanksha from India, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I'm a news writer. Sir, I would like to put my question in Hindi, if you allow me.
That's okay.
Sir, आपने जिस तरह से बात की राजीव सर ने हिंदू फोबिया के बारे में.
बोलिए.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
हाँ
सर, जिस तरह से आपने हिंदू फोबिया की बात की और भारत में जो अभी माहौल है, जैसे हम देख पा रहे हैं कि भी हनुमान चालीसा और अजान को लेकर बहस चल रही है हमारे देश में, और हमने दिल्ली में भी देखा कि कुछ जगहों पे हनुमान जयंती पर या कुछ और जगहों पे रामनवमी के अवसर पर यहाँ पे कुछ जगह दंगे हुए, झगड़े हुए. आपको क्या लगता है आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की क्या भूमिका होती है इन चीजों को बढ़ाने में, या हम कैसे से फिक्स कर सकते हैं?
आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के हाँ ठीक, अच्छा प्रश्न है. आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के द्वारा वायलेंस स्प्रेड की जा रही है. ये जो राइट्स हुए थे फार्मर के टाइम पर, इसमें जॉर्ज सोरस का हाथ था. जो CAA के अगेंस्ट हुए थे, ये जो थ्रू सोशल मीडिया भड़काया जाता. ये मेरे को जो हनुमान जयंती में जो हुआ है उसमें शायद इंटरनेट का ज्यादा रोल नहीं था, मेरे को मालूम नहीं. पर पहले जो सोशल अनरेस्ट हुए थे, जो पब्लिक में लोग आकर काफी दंगा मचा रहे थे, उसमें सोशल मीडिया का रोल था. और वो सोशल मीडिया को भड़काने के लिए उन्होंने एल्गोरिथम यूज किए थे कि किसको क्या मैसेज जाएंगे, किसको क्या मैसेज जाएंगे. सो ये एक तरह की जैसे काउंटर टेररिज्म होती है, जिसका काम होता है कि आप टेररिज्म पर ध्यान रखें, उसके ऊपर निगाह रखें और उसको बचाएं, उसको एंटिसिपेट करें और उसको रुकावट करें. इसी तरह से ये एक तरह की साइबर वॉरफेयर में, ये साइबर वॉरफेयर का काम है. ये साइबर वॉरफेयर का काम है कि आप दूसरे के कैंप में थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम कर सकते हैं और वो जो हमारे कैंप में प्रॉब्लम करेगा उसको हम बचा सकते हैं। ये एक साइबर वॉरफेयर हो रही है, इसी को साइबर वॉरफेयर बोलते हैं, जो साइकोलॉजिकल तरीके से, अलग अलग तरीके से, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिजिटल तरीके से अपने दुश्मन को हराया जाए। तो इसके लिए साइबर वॉरफेयर ग्रुप्स चाहिए। जैसे आप मिलिट्री में, जैसे पहले एनसीसी होती थी हमारे जमाने में, तो आजकल की एनसीसी वालों को ये करना चाहिए, जैसे कई लोग शाखा में, आरएसएस के शाखा होते हैं, तो अब इस तरह के शाखे होने चाहिए, साइबर वॉरफेयर शाखा ऐसे होने चाहिए। क्यों नहीं होने चाहिए? जब ओनली व्हेन आवर लीडर्स थिंक लाइक दिस, व्हेन द लीडर्स एट द टॉप से करे भाई ये तो बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है। आई हैव बीन सेइंग, आप मेरे को गिव मी 100 गुड थिंकर्स एंड स्कॉलर्स एंड गिव मी फैसिलिटी, मेरे को कुछ और चाहिए नहीं, आई विल ट्रेन देम। मैंने ये बहुत बार बोल चुका, मैं आपके 100 लोग तैयार कर दूंगा और फिर उनको जो भी आप चाहते हैं तुम ले जाओ, जहां भी चाहते हो उनसे काम करवा, बट दे विल बी वेरी नॉलेजेबल, because I don't want that one day I'm too old or I'm dead or may come, I could not spread it. My job is to spread it. So thank you very much for asking the question.
So Rajiv ji, just to supplement it, what Akanksha ji was asking, there was a particular phrase used, and that was toolkit. So
Toolkit, yes.
CAA,
Yes.
Shaheen Bagh, and even for some of the other agitations, toolkits were prepared in advance.
Yes.
And they were adhered to.
Yes.
And stupid people like that autistic kid, and Malala and Mia Khalifa, they actually published those, Greta, they published those toolkits inadvertently.
ये मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि जो मेरी नेक्स्ट बुक आ रही है उसके ऊपर उसमें टूल किट का काफी मेरे पास चैप्टर है कि टूल किट क्या चीज है, कहाँ से पैदा होती है, उसकी क्या फिलॉसफी है। बट बेसिकली मैं आपको कह सकता हूँ कि ये जो नई तरह की आइडियोलॉजी निकल रही है, जो जिसके बारे में अभी मेरी जो नेक्स्ट पुस्तक है काफी डिटेल में बताया गया है, वो आइडियोलॉजी को आम आदमी पर लाने के लिए टूल किट चाहिए। मतलब टूल किट bridges the gap between the intellectual and the activist. Okay, it's like Dr. Agnihotri is a lawyer. He knows legal language, but let's say his strategy has to be taught to lot of low junior level legal people. So somebody says कि let's make a toolkit. आपकी जो knowledge है, जो उसका तत्व है, वो हम वहाँ पहुँचा देंगे. Or let's say Dr. Purohit is come up with a brilliant new medical thing, and or Adityanji, you come up with some great breakthrough, but now you want that every village में जो लोग इतने trained नहीं हैं, they should be able to do some work. So you create a toolkit. So this is ideological toolkit. ये same example जो मैं दे रहा हूँ, ये ideology के department में, ये social sciences में अब toolkit पैदा करने का, ये this is a whole new theory how to do this. I'm writing a lot about it in my next book.
राजीव जी, आप भारतीय अंतरराष्ट्रीय भारतीय मैत्री संस्थान के मंच पर आए, इसके लिए हम आपके हृदय से आभारी हैं। हम बहुत हर्षित हैं और गौरवान्वित हैं कि आप अपनी उच्च विचारधारा को यहाँ पे सबके सामने लेके आए, और हमारा ये अनुरोध है कि यह आपका पहला नहीं, आखिरी नहीं, आप बार बार आएंगे। मैं देख रहा हूँ कि हमारे माननीय अग्निहोत्री जी आपसे कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, तो उनको कहने दीजिए, उसके पश्चात हम ये सभा समाप्त करेंगे।
राजीव जी हिंदी में बोल रहे हैं, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बहुत ही आनंद आया, वेरी नाइस, इट्स वंडरफुल। आप संस्कृत में बात करते हैं, संस्कृत में कहते हैं गच्छतु भवान पुनर्दर्शनाय। नमस्कार।
आपका पुनः अभिनंदन करता हूं मैं, और ऐसी आशा रखता हूं कि आपसे संपर्क चलता रहेगा, चाहे आप भारत में हो, यहाँ पे हो, पुस्तकें लिख रहे हो, कुछ भी कर रहे हो, क्योंकि आपकी आत्मा भारत में निवास करती है, और हमें इससे गर्व होता है कि एक हमारे में से ही निकला हुआ व्यक्ति इतनी उच्च विचारधारा को दुनिया में प्रोपगेट कर रहा है। नमस्कार।
नमस्कार।
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
धन्यवाद। नमस्कार जी, नमस्कार, धन्यवाद, धन्यवाद।